Thank you, Kat. So we'll just begin. Good evening, and a thank you to everyone who's joined us this year for our year-in review of the Tarras Valley Nature Reserve. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Mary Telford-Jamie. I recently became the chair of the Langham Initiative, which is the community land owner of the Tarras Valley. I'm going to act as the facilitator for the event, and we're delighted really to see such a good turnout for tonight, so thank you very much. We're really looking forward to providing an update from the team, and this will last about 45 minutes. We will then have about 15 minutes for question and answers at the end. It's been another busy year. Maybe Kat could change the slide. Sorry, Kat. Been another busy year, and we have continued to consult and engage with the community to support the development of our action plan. More on that later. Two of our board members stepped down in December, and we'd like to thank them very much for all their hard work. John Hanrahan, who was previously the chair of the Langham Initiative, and Campbell Scott. So I'd like to thank them for their hard work that they put in over the last few years. We're very grateful to them for everything they've done. The organisation's remit has grown massively since the land buyout, and we've recently been reviewing structures and our financial management to make sure we have the best possible systems in place and can reassure everyone that we're maximising our resources. We continue to try to build partnerships, host visits from volunteers and students, and engage with colleagues around Scotland through organisations such as Community Land Scotland. The Tarras Valley Nature Reserve is now the main focus of the Langham Initiatives as an organisation. And as you'll hear tonight, we're taking forward a number of different projects within that to continue to work towards our aim of creating a sustainable nature reserve. We're still very much at the start of a long but exciting journey, and we hope that you will continue to follow us along the way in what we believe is a hopeful story to show what is possible when we come together. Before we go on to the main presentation, I'd like to quickly run through some housekeeping rules. This webinar is being recorded, and the recording will go onto our YouTube channel and will be shared afterwards for people who couldn't make it tonight. We'll take questions at the end, so please put your questions into the chat and these will be put to the team members. If we don't have time to answer all the questions, please, we will try to respond in frequently asked questions afterwards and make these available to everyone. So I'm now going to hand over to Angela, who's our development manager, and she will give you a snapshot of what has been achieved since our last update and a flavour of what is to come. So over to Angela.
Hello and welcome. My name's Angela Williams, as Mary has just introduced me, and I'm the development manager. I'd like to start off with a quick introduction of the team. If you joined any of our previous webinars, some of the faces will be familiar, but there might be some new people along, so we just want to make sure that you're familiar with all the team. Kat, could we have the next slide? So along the top there, we have Jenny up at the sheep farm, as you can probably guess. Jenny is our reserve manager. Kat, if you could go back, please.
Which slide can you guys see? Because I can see the team one.
Yes, you'd move forward a slide, so we're back on the team one now.
Okay, cool. It's just a bit laggy. Sorry about
that. So yes, along the top, we have Jenny, our reserve manager. There's myself, Angela, the development manager. We have Joyce, who is the office manager. William is our shepherd. And then on the bottom row, we have Inigo, who is our digital media manager. Kat, who undertakes our education and engagement work. And we have Juliana, who is our latest member of staff to join the team, and she is our finance administrator. Next slide. Thanks. The reserve means different things to different people. And it's not just fulfilling one purpose. For many people, it's a home. For others, it's a place of work. For many, it's the backdrop to the common riding ride-outs or for our local hound trails. People walk, swim, ride and bike through it. People visit to watch the hen harriers dance or the black grouse slack or the baby barn owls nesting. But people, both local and visitors, value and use the reserve for so many different reasons. And as custodians of the community-owned land, our role is to balance these different uses while still allowing nature to thrive. Next slide. Again, some of you will be a little bit familiar with how we've been structuring our work. And in the past, we've often talked about 4 pillars, but as you'll see from this slide, we're putting the focus on people, nature and climate as our 3 main strands of work, but absolutely underpinned all of them by the sustainability. And sustainability, we're looking at both financial, environmental and organisation, which underpins all our activity. We are very conscious that this is a forever project, and it's really important that we have all the building blocks in place to make sure that the reserve is sustainable into the future. So I'm now going to go on to a little bit more detail about the people side of our activity. Kat? No, need the next slide, please. Thanks. That's great. The people aspects of our work is very, very broad-based. It encompasses everything from economic and social benefits through to our education work and through to supporting visitors. And if we just focus a little bit on our economic and social benefits, we are very proud that we use local contractors, local suppliers and local businesses to help support our work. In the last year, we've invested around 50,000 into the local economy through use of local contractors. Visiting organisations and groups regularly visit the town, bringing income with them by staying in hotels, using local resources. And this is really important for us, and this is something we want to maintain and continue into the future. We continue to run Coombs, our uphill sheep farm, which provides a home as well as a livelihood to William R. Shepherd. It also provides income for a reserve. And we also provide homes for local residents as well. And we hope that this will continue and thrive into the future as we work to build or renovate rather than build one of our other properties, and we hope that can become a home in 25-26. We want to build up our employment on the reserve, for example, ranger, ecologist, woodlands, build up the expertise that we feel is needed to complement the existing team. We will be looking at future opportunities for Coombs Farm, partly given the uncertain nature of agricultural policy, but also to see what more we can achieve with it. We are very conscious that when we've done recent consultation, there's been a lot of queries and requests about growing, about small holdings, about farming, and certainly there's a great appetite for interest in that area. And we want, whilst we want to continue on with the farm, we want to see what changes we can make to bring it into more alignment with some of our mainstream objectives as well. So now I'm going to pass over to Kat, and she can talk a little bit about her work.
Hi everyone. Sorry, yes, there we go. I keep seeing a different slide to everyone else, I think. So to look at a bit of the kind of learning discoveries and skills building aspect of what we've been doing on the reserve. So over the last year, we have continued our environmental and outdoor education work, and we've worked with over 300 young people locally. both on the reserve and in green spaces around the town. And going forward, we'll be continuing with this core focus of connecting young people with the land and expanding the current offering to schools further afield as well. So to help build like rural and employability skills in local young people, we've been running sessions with the Langham Academy Rural Skills course, doing activities such as like dry stone walling or looking after our tree nursery. And going forward, we will be continuing to offer work experience opportunities, as well as looking into the possibility of offering apprenticeships on the reserve as well. So as much of the work that's being done in the environmental industry does require a lot of trial and error, working with other organisations is really important. So we've had other organisations visiting the reserve to learn about what we're doing and vice versa. And it's really useful to be able to share this knowledge and share what's worked in the past or what's going to happen in the future with other organisations. So we're very fortunate to be able to use the Tarras Valley as an outdoor classroom and allow the site to be used for external training as well as what we're running ourselves. So in the last year, this has included hosting chainsaw training for with a local contraction company in some of the woodland, and also more wildlife focused organisations learning about a variety of topics such as bog plant ID or bird ID for like breeding bird surveys and things. And then by way of like the community and wider engagement as well, we've been doing extensive community engagement to discuss various aspects of our action plan and what we want to see and what the community wants to see on the reserve. And we're aiming to have a draft copy of that to be available over the next few months. We've also been running a variety of community events, which includes a ceilidh for Community Land Week, a dark skies event with a local astronomer, a moss walk with a bryophyte expert, and we also did a screening of the Riverwoods film. So these events are aimed at getting a wider range of people involved with the project, looking at the benefits of both community land and the natural environment, rather than just focusing on one aspect of it. So lots of the work done on the reserve could not have been done without the amazing work done by volunteers. And over the last year, the local volunteer group have put in over 500 hours of time doing a range of activities from planting trees, clearing Sitka spruce, filling bird feeders, working with school groups, and absolutely loads more things as well. And we've also hosted visits from corporate groups or other organisations who have travelled to the area to volunteer and get involved as well. And in addition to the work done by contracted ecologists, there are many volunteers and experts that volunteer their time to do wildlife surveys on the reserve. So this includes monitoring like the raptor population, doing moth surveys, plant surveys, bird surveys, and just really helping us get all of this data so that we know exactly what's on the reserve. Going forward, we're hoping to expand our local, regional, and national and international volunteering opportunities to just bring more people into the area and onto the land. Continue to work alongside other organisations in the town to provide support and opportunities to collaborate and link with the wider community plan. For example, working with Creation Mill or Excel Youth Group, or as part of the community forum. We're also wanting to develop income streams through engagement, for example, offering paid corporate volunteering or guided walks, and this will allow us to continue to provide educational sessions to local schools. And also working with other organisations in the community to build and strengthen local young voices, both in our work and in the wider area going forward. And I think I'm passing it back to Angela so she can continue with some of the other people things.
Thanks, Kat. Yes, I'm just going to finish off this section, just talk very, very briefly about visitors. Kat, if you want to.
Sorry, I don't want it to accidentally skip like 6 slides because I keep pressing the button. Like that. There we go. Sorry.
It's Wi-Fi.
Is it our Wi-Fi?
I think it's her Wi-Fi.
Okay. Right. Oh, that's great. Thank you. The delights of technology. We've had a real day of it. So yeah, I just want to talk very briefly about our visitor offering, which is very much at the early stages, but we do know that from interest generated through the buyout that there are people from all around the country and to a certain extent all around the world who want to come and visit the reserve. That might be for wildlife, it might be for the land itself, it might be for walking, it might even be for the story of the buyout and the community. So what we are conscious of is that we do want to undertake developments that are appropriate with the fact that the land is a nature reserve, but that can still give visitors a good experience, and also that we build up that visitor offering so it doesn't cause conflicts locally as well. We're very conscious that visitor experience and tourism can overtake a community, and that's not something that we want to happen. With the help from South Scotland Enterprise at SOSI, we'll shortly be installing a first phase of signage, so at least people will be able to know when they've actually come to the reserve, something that's a little bit lacking at the moment, and also other improvements as well. And we will look to undertake and develop more infrastructure in the future in conjunction with the local community and people who've got an interest in that area. And we look forward to seeing more activity on the reserve that visitors can take part in, be that guided walks, events or associated activities. So it's very much a watch this space. It's still very early days of this area of work, but that's something that certainly will develop in the future. And now I'm handing over to Jenny, who's going to talk about nature.
I'll just wait for the slide to come. So I'm just going to be covering a little bit of work on our nature theme. When the slide arrives, I think it was, so the big picture aim with our nature restoration for the Tarras Valley is about restoration of ecosystems across the whole landscape. So this is helping to restore lost and damaged habitat. So that includes aspirations, everything from restoring native woodlands to their natural limits, restoring our damaged peatlands and blanket bogs, starting to look at how we can reconnect the River Tarras with its natural course. Could you go back one, Kat? Starting to look at how we can use restorative grazing to encourage dynamism in the ecosystem, and all of this is with the aim to maximise biodiversity and encourage a really abundant and complex ecological web. So really taking a whole systems look at what needs to be repaired and what needs to be given a helping hand to encourage nature to thrive. So how have we been putting this into practice over the last 12 months through projects? So I'll just give a little bit of a snapshot on what our key projects are to help to achieve all of these different aims on the Tarras Valley. So I think a big theme through, like what Kat said, what Andrew said, has been about learning about the land. It's a large land holding 10,500 acres, and we're still very much learning and discovering. So I think this is really important that we're taking the time to be able to do this and to inform where we're going, what interventions might look like. So it's really evidence-led, and we're taking our time to sort of understand what we've got. So echoing what Kat said, we've been doing this through paid consultancy time, ecology time, citizen science, through ongoing environmental assessment. And this is all coming together to help us to sort of baseline where we are, and also then to see where we need to start to intervene to help nature to thrive. So and the next thing one of the biggest projects we've done this year is felled a 36-hectare plantation of Sitka spruce. So we've been working with Till Hill and local forestry consultant Mark Seed, and using some really brilliant local harvesting and haulage contractors to complete phase 1 of that project. So it's a really exciting native woodland restoration project. It's been a really big joined up effort to complete the felling of that site after it was blown down, or mostly blown down, by Storm Arwen, which sort of fast-tracked it along a little bit more than planned. But what a big focus of that has been community engagement to minimise the impact of what is actually quite a sort of disruptive operation. So working with the council, working with the local community to reduce concerns about that. And I'll cover a little bit about what we're doing next on that site on the next slide. We've also been halo thinning in our ancient woodlands. So that's the picture on the top left there. We've done halo thinning of sort of dense birch regeneration around our ancient oak trees. About 60 trees have been thinned around. So we've been using local contractors to help us do that, to help to give these amazing trees a longer life, hopefully. And we've been scoping or starting to scope river restoration opportunities on the Tarras with Galloway Fisheries Trust. So the Tarras is a salmon river. Although they're declining, we still have salmon coming up the River Tarras. So there's an amazing opportunity to restore that river. And also we are experiencing, particularly in the last 2 years, huge amounts of erosion with more extreme weather. So I think those kind of scoping river restoration opportunities and increasing the natural resilience of the system is becoming more important. As climate change is kind of impacting us, seeing the impacts of that. We've also been discovering new species. So this year we've had an accidental discovery of pine martens, which we did not know were in the immediate area. We left a trail camera out too long and found them running past it, which was quite amazing. So we've been really excited about that. And we've also recently had reported sightings of mountain hares, which again, we didn't know were in the area. So we're going to try and confirm that sighting and do a little bit more investigation about that. But it's amazing what's coming back. And obviously we've been, as Kat mentioned, lots of practical volunteering activities on the land. So just looking ahead for our work on nature restoration. So we're going to be, as part of our action plan and to really help to further define our approach, we're going to be looking at getting some additional ecological support and ecological visioning work done. So what does a nature-led approach look like in practice? How do we get there? So, and there's also a lot of learning that we can do to help inform our approach from other sites, which we've already really benefited from, people that are sort of further along the journey than us. We've secured from NatureScot money to clear 30 hectares of regenerated sick spruce from our moorlands. You can see it just on our bottom picture. It's quite an issue for us, so that's going to really help. We've been clearing it so far with volunteers and we'll continue to do that. But this will give us a really good helping hand to get contractors in to come and really get the worst of it out. And obviously we'll continue to develop river restoration opportunities. We're going to be further developing herbivore impact assessment to better understand what and where there might be grazing pressure and the hotspots on the reserve. And tied in with Coombs Farm, we are going to be beginning work on a whole reserve grazing plan. So what other animals can we start to bring onto the land to help with that recovery, help with that dynamism onto the land? So whether that be cattle, ponies, we're sort of starting to look at what other animals that we can use as part of our grazing mix. And obviously we're going to really benefit from learning from other sites on that as well. So just next coming up is our climate theme. So the big aspiration for climate is obviously making a meaningful contribution to climate and ecological emergency. So that's through work like delivering nature-based carbon capture through restoring woodlands and planting trees, restoring our peatlands, but also through restoration of nature, enhancing our natural resilience to more extreme weather, so drought, wildfire risk, flood. So obviously restoring the resilience of the natural system, and also contributing to local energy and food security. So that's a big one, and that will take time to develop, but that's, within there, there's a lot of really important things that we can do to contribute. So how are we putting these aspirations into practice? We are busy working with Peatland Action and Crichton Carbon Centre over in Dumfries to well, we've been busy the last year developing peatland restoration phase 1, which is 190 hectares of ditch blocking on our moorland. So that is going to be a really, really exciting project, and there's been a lot of hard work done to sort of survey and make sure that the restoration plan fits the site, and it's going to be a really big impact. It's our biggest project to date. We're also working with the Woodland Trust, so we've been doing a lot of design and survey work on the creation of a low density upland birch and scrub planting scheme. Very focused on low density to hopefully benefit lots of our species, but particularly black grouse. We've also been working with Scottish Fire and Rescue to develop a wildfire response plan if an incident ever did take place. And that's a really big one for setting out how we would respond to an incident. But also twinned with that is the preventative, which is also how we build natural resilience in the landscape for more extreme weather. So re-wetting, restoring the hydrology, increasing our woodland cover, as well as promoting responsible access and use by visitors. And we've also been doing wider climate action. So we've joined Dumfries and Galloway Climate Hub to support that wider regional climate action. And we've also attended the Citizens Panel for Climate Change at the Scottish Parliament to help input on what community-led action could look like in Scotland. And so just looking ahead, so if all goes to plan with peatland action, we'll be delivering our phase 1. So phase 1 of ditch blocking. So that's it'll be over 36 miles of ditch blocking that we will have done hopefully by the spring next year. So there's some of the ditches just there, some of the really extensive drains in the bottom right-hand corner. And then we'll be starting to plan for phase 2 of restoration, which is likely to be some of our very fast eroding drainage ditches. So planning for 25-26. And we will be, again, if all goes to plan, delivering 38 hectares on our native woodland scheme. So that's, again, it's really important upland, low density woodland, focused on riparian zones and connective riparian woodland. We'll also be continuing to work on our wildfire incident response with the creation of a community asset register to help better prepare us for any incidents, but also continuing with the preventative measures at the same time as well. And we'll also be continuing to input wherever we can on the sort of wider national research and learning on climate change, and wherever we can act as a live case study, we will certainly be trying to do that. And I'll now hand on to Ange to cover sustainability.
Thanks, Jenny. Yes, that's great. Thanks, Kat. As I said earlier on in the presentation, we're in this for the long haul. We're in it for the long term. It's not a project that ends in 3 years. We intend to be owning this land well into the future. But to do this, we need to ensure that the reserve is sustainable financially, environmentally, and organisationally. And it's really important that all aspects are considered to make sure that we can move forward. And some of it might be the sort of boring behind the scenes stuff, not as exciting as some of the visible projects we see on the ground, but it's just as important to make sure that we can achieve all the aspirations that we set down. So just to talk a little bit about what that means in reality, if we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So already as the reserve, we do generate income. We are very fortunate that we do get grants to support, in particular, some of the staff posts. But we do bring in income from rents, from farm sales, subsidies, events and associated activities. And we're also fortunate this year that we've been able to bring in income through the felling of the lower Tarras strip that Jenny talked about earlier. The day-to-day income from the rents and the farm sales and such like, they all help contribute to the day-to-day maintenance and management of the reserve. So that's making sure that we can afford to repair tracks, that we can pay the insurance, all those day-to-day activities that are associated with running of a land holding of this size. We try to be opportunistic as well if it's appropriate. So there are sometimes short-term uses of land that we might rent to groups or to other organisations who want to undertake activity there. And where it's appropriate and again fits in with what we're doing, we're happy to support that. We've also invested in the staffing side on the financial resources for our team, and that's already beginning to make a big difference with Juliana in post and also extra resources to just help get us set on the right footing. Over the course of the next year, this will give us much better handle on our finances, on where we're making a surplus and where things are loss making, so that we can actually put systems in place to make sure that we continue to run it effectively in the future. Next slide, Kat. And looking ahead, which for me, this is some of the really exciting parts of our work. We are very conscious of the need to generate more income generating projects. So we're thanks to Investment Ready Nature Scotland, which is supported both by Nature Scot and the Esme Fairbairn Trust. This has provided us with funding to help allow us to invest time in looking at best options for making the best use of some of our buildings and land on the reserve. And this has had a particular focus on building up our offering for visitor accommodation, looking at different options such as glamping, bunkhouse, self-catering, but also looking at wider, more social benefits as well, such as an educational base or even a mountain bothy. So we're looking at a very wide, broad range of initiatives there. And the study that we've been doing for the past year has been looking at all the background work, such as planning, services, looking at what the land can take, what the buildings can take, but also what our research is telling us. And so if anybody on the webinar has taken part in some of the surveys that we've included in the various newsletters over the past year, thank you very much. We have made use of those along with other background research that we've been doing. And this is shortly, in the next kind of 4 to 6 weeks, we'll be pulling sort of reports together and draft plans that we'll be able to discuss in more detail, take out to the community, and hopefully allow us to make decisions so that we can actually start taking forward detailed work on some of these areas of activity. So for us, 24-25, it's going to be a very exciting year as we take these developments forward. And if all goes to plan, which is always a big if in the current climate, we would hope to maybe see a first project on the ground in 25-26, bringing income into the reserve to help strengthen our sustainability. And so now I'm going to pass over to Inigo, who's going to tell you a bit about how we share our story with you and all our friends around the country and around the world.
I unmute myself. My role is try to maximize our reach and impact and to ensure that our message is effectively communicated to our audience. One of our most important achievements last year was the launch of our website and the new brand for the reserve in order to try to get a broader audience and to sell our work, the work we are doing in the reserve. Looking at the external media, a highlight of last year was being featured in a docu-series on PBS, on an American channel, called A Brief History of the Future. As well, we are very active in social media, and our growth across all social media channels shows that we are expanding our reach and that we've got a loyal base that actively supports our mission. In terms of wildlife content, last year we had our beloved barn owl nest cameras. We set up lots of trap cameras around the reserve, So we found badgers by martins, we've got golden eagles, we've got deer, we've got lots of wildlife that we've been showing. Looking at next year, we are really happy to announce that we are expanding our Live Nest camera program with a Kingfisher artificial wall nest and a Kestrel nest camera. We are eager to deepen our audience connection to the nature and inspire even greater appreciation for the biodiversity in our reserve. And lastly, a part of my work involves monitoring the landscape changes. So documenting these shifts over time, we are not only gaining valuable insights into the dynamics of our environment, but also laying the groundwork for future generations to appreciate the impact of our conservation initiatives. So hopefully, with a long-term vision in mind, our aim is to create a legacy of a positive change that will be evident in decades from now. And that is me.
Thank you, Inigo. It's back to me. Just to say thank you to the team for that snapshot. It's been a really very busy year with lots of challenges, and a lot of learning has been done, I think, in the last year. But it is quite amazing what's been achieved in such a short space of time with really a small team. And we know we have a very exciting and challenging year ahead of us. Thank you for continuing to engage with us, and we do hope that you can do that in the future, respond to our newsletters and give us feedback, because it's really important to us that we hear from you about what you are thinking about what we're doing. If there are other ways you can help us to continue on this journey by volunteering or coming to visit, sharing our message and donating, of course. We really couldn't have done this without all our supporters and funders, both big and small. So thank you to all of you for that. We think that what we are achieving really is proof of all the wonderful things that can happen when people work together. And it is amazing. We believe, the board certainly believes that we have a very good team here that work well together, and they really are a team that are highly motivated and put in a lot of hours on this, the Tarras Valley Nature Reserve. So thank you everyone for listening to the team tonight, and please, I hope you have already put some questions into the chat. And I think Kat's going to read out the questions and identify the best person to answer the questions. So please do put some questions into the chat, and we can move forward with that. Thank you very much.
So I'll just get the questions up. Sorry, I've just completely lost that. I'm going to mute myself for just a second. So the first question, I think, is probably aimed for Jenny. How often are golden eagles seen in the area now?
So we the South of Scotland Golden Eagle Project monitor them. I personally still haven't seen them yet, which I'm gutted about. But we have the last update that we had was that we have two that look like they are trying to establish a territory in the upper Tarras Valley and further north up to Hermitage. So that's really exciting. One of them is actually called Tarras, named after the reserve, and it's a complete coincidence that he's now decided to try and create a territory here, and the other one's called Wren. So we've got two, which we really hope. I mean, it would be incredible if they did come and nest. So we have been in discussions with the Golden Eagle Project, due to probably catch up with them soon, just about, is there potential for an artificial sort of nest anywhere? But yeah, we'll sort of take the lead from them in terms of whether that's a possibility or not. And they may naturally nest, you know, the more tree cover we get. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Ange, so the next two are about visiting the reserve. So first of all, to visit the reserve, can you just show up, or is it better to contact? And also, is there any interpretation or signage before the visitors facility, like at the moment, in place?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for that. Thanks for the questions. As said earlier, we will shortly be installing some welcome signage, just to help demarcate the reserve and help anybody visiting the reserve orientate themselves. So I wouldn't say it was interpretation in the formal sense. It's very much about helping you identify the boundaries of the reserve and orientate yourself, and that will hopefully take place over the next couple of months if all goes to plan. Obviously, anybody is welcome to visit any part of reserve whenever they want. Part of it is a working sheep farm, so just take care, especially during lambing time. And also, obviously, a large part of it is moorland, and we are very conscious of ground nesting birds. So there's, you know, it's a bit about using your common sense as to where you walk and where you go, and taking due care.
Dogs and leads.
Yeah, if you just be careful with dogs, because as I say, with plenty of nests, that dogs do need to be under control, because it's a particularly vulnerable time of the year. So that's the priority. So in answer to kind of Crispin's question, that yes, that's what we want to get established before we look at other infrastructure. So it's an ongoing rolling programme to try and enhance all these areas.
And also for you, I think, Ange, so I'll just read the whole thing. This question might be a bit techie, but it's based on my experience with another charity, and I haven't had time to look at the website. Sorry. What's your reserves policy, i.e., holding money as a buffer to cover operational expenses?
Yeah, our reserves policies that we aim to hold, it's, I think, 3 months reserves to cover staff costs, eventualities and day-to-day running costs. I think, if I'm right, we're looking at the order of holding around sort of 60,000 in terms of our reserves. It's something we do have to review on a regular basis, because obviously as we get to know the land and as staffing numbers change and what have you, that affects how much we're looking to hold. But it's, yeah, we're conscious that that is part of our responsibilities of running the reserve responsibly.
Thanks. And Jenny, do you have any incursion of grey squirrels into the existing woodlands? Does this pose a threat to extant red populations? And are there any plans to enhance or encourage pine marten populations?
So there is a Save Scotland's Red Squirrels sort of group operating in the area. So I think one of our aspirations is we sort of take the lead from them and work with them on the sort of conserving our red squirrel populations in the area. We definitely do have an incursion of grey squirrels in the wider area. We see them less on the reserve. It's probably not to say they're not there, but we do also have some, we have our surveys this year on the lower end of the Tarras Valley and the woodlands where the pine martens are actually, and we have red populations still sort of hanging on there. So we'll continue to work with them, our sort of local red squirrel group, to help to sort of extend, try and extend our red squirrel populations. And we've been putting up, in terms of encouraging pine marten populations, Inigo and Kat have been working with Dumfries and Galloway Pine Marten Group. We've just put up 2 pine marten nest boxes at the lower end of the reserve, and we actually have trail cameras that are just sort of trying to see how many we might have and what the population might look like. And it actually looks like they're starting to investigate the new nest boxes, which is amazing. So hopefully we can sort of have a really strong network of those, although they do seem to be doing quite well without any intervention whatsoever, to be honest. We do seem to have quite a lot of them already, which is amazing since we only sort of discovered them earlier last year. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question, but grey squirrels are definitely an issue in the area. We're kind of on a sort of the borderlands, I suppose, with the red and the greys.
Thanks. Yeah. So another one for you, I think, Jenny. So this one's about the farm. Is the farm reducing, or has it reduced pesticide use and wormers, etc.?
I think that at the moment we are continuing to sort of treat the sheep with a pour-on treatment, and there are some treatments that they get through the year. So as we start to look at opportunities in the future, it may be that we transition things to sort of lower chemical input or organic, and it's certainly something that we're keen to sort of have a look at as we look at like options for transition and diversifying our current farm operations. So I think there's a lot of opportunity we've got when we start to look at diversifying the grazing mix and starting to look at something that's a sort of lower impact on the land, that we can look at these things as well. We've kind of, since the farm transferred at the end of 2022, we've kind of just been getting to grips with just the operation as it stands, and sort of trying to get to grips with how it runs at the moment, to help us to see how we can adapt things in the future. So we're actually just busy lambing at the moment, so helping with that, and William's very busy. So yeah, there's certainly opportunities there.
So that's the end of the questions that have come through up to now. There's a few nice comments saying great presentation, fantastic work, wild goats are brilliant, that sort of thing. If anyone else has got, there's another message just come through, but Jenny, again for you, so about habitat management. Do you have any meadow management or mature species rich grassland management, and how does management of this fit your overall farm management process?
So at the moment, we have our in-by land, which we do have kind of quite low levels of grazing sheep on those fields. I think we have just entered into an agricultural kind of stewardship scheme for a lot of our sort of in-by land, looking at how we can manage them for sort of wetland grazing, enhancing wader scrapes, those kind of things on the kind of more, I suppose, the farm end of the fields. But certainly in terms of meadow management, those kind of mature species rich grassland management, we've probably got a lot more opportunities along the floodplain and that kind of thing. So we've got some quite amazing pasture, which I think will be very enhanced once we start to look at other animals as well. So where we can use cattle and that kind of thing to really, we do have issues with Molinia grasses, which are definitely stifling diversity on the land. So I think that's where we are in need of needing to diversify our grazing to help get some dynamism back into the landscape and get a bit more diversity in some of our grassland areas. But we do have some really good grasslands already, which will probably really benefit from a change in grazing as well.
So I think this one would be you again, Jenny. Will the draft action plan be available on your website, or where will it be available when it is?
So we're just in the middle of drafting it at the moment. We've been doing a lot of engagement locally on it, and I think it's probably taken a little bit longer than planned because we've really tried to get to the crux of things and tried to really pull things together. So we've been aspirational but realistic at the same time. And we're looking at getting some ecological work done alongside it as well to strengthen it. So I think that's why we're probably a little bit later than planned, but we're wanting to publish it by the summer. So there'll be a draft version for people. So it'll be iterative. It won't be a final version. It'll be a draft for people to comment on, and we'll get people's feedback on it, and then we can make changes from there. Oh, it's the last question, Kat, I think there.
Yep. Is it a conscious decision not to use the word rewilding? Sorry, probably for you, Jenny.
I think Mary's gonna answer that one.
Yeah, I'm happy to say something, and then maybe Jenny can say that.
Yeah.
When we were in the process of taking forward the buyout, we did make a conscious decision not to use rewilding, partly because there were so many definitions of the word rewilding, and we've kind of carried on with that, but we know that it's something that we're going to debate shortly. Both staff and board are going to debate that to try to see whether we continue to take that position with that term, or whether we decide to adopt it and go forward that way. But at the minute, we're still kind of undecided. So I hope that I'm not really saying anything there, but Jen.
I think it's just maybe we've just mainly just used the word ecological restoration because I think and restoring nature, because I think sometimes it depends who you ask to what people mean by what people interpret as rewilding, and it means so many different things depending on who you ask and what kind of audience. So we kind of think what's made things easier is just to keep with the term simple, so that it's a little bit more maybe accessible to wider audiences, I suppose, and it keeps things simple.
Again, not sure there's if anyone's got any more questions, or if not, we can maybe just finish a few minutes early.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Yep.
Okay, just thank you to everybody. Thank you to all the staff. Thank you everyone who's participated tonight. And thank you for all the questions that you've posed to us. Hopefully we can keep you up to date both through the website and through our newsletters going forward. And, you know, send us questions again if you come up with things after this webinar, and we can certainly endeavour to get back to you on those. So thank you very much. And everybody else can maybe say thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you.